I think customers have moved on in terms of the way that they behave. And I think the challenge that people have got at the moment is understanding that no one customer is going to engage with you in a linear fashion. And previously through marketing, that was how we kind of program marketing. It was about, you had outdoor, you had your traditional above the line, and then you would go into the actual engagement. What's now is happening is that customers are engaging with you in multiple different ways. And because of that, you have to be able to engage that customer when they're engaging with you and not necessarily the other way around. A great example of it is people with price checking. On mobile, people are literally walking into stores, looking at clothing or at other items, and then seeing what that price is and if they can get it cheaper somewhere else. So it puts massive pressure on businesses, one, to be able to compete on a price level, but also to understand what that customer is doing and maybe giving them an offer in the store that allows them to match it with something else that might go with it that actually makes you more competitive. So all of these kind of processes are things that are starting to happen on a global level, and it all relates back to the data and back to the customer and how you're able to engage with them. And right now, the customers are using technology in ways that companies have not really understood, and that's why we believe that they've kind of moved on, and we're still struggling to kind of do the basics. Big data has been around since the early 90s. The challenge that we have now is because suddenly customers are part of that process, companies are being made more aware of what data they actually have. It's very unstructured. And now they're trying to figure out, how do I use this? Where do I go with this? And there's some very clever companies that can take unstructured data and make it structured and all that sort of thing. But fundamentally, if you go back to the basics, you have a business strategy that is at the core of the business that you're in. If you take that business strategy, what is the data that you need to be able to affect that business strategy? Then use that data to understand, what data do you have? What data don't you have, and what do you need, and where can you get it? And if you start to approach it on that very simple, logical kind of process, you then start to see, I have this data, I can talk to these customers in this way, I don't have this data. Often we actually think you do have the data, you just don't understand where to get it or how to use it. And then there may be some data that you need to collect. But if you have that as a strategy, what it then means is that you can actually go back and say, I now have a strategy and I need to collect that data. I can now ask those customers that question, or I can go find ways of augmenting that data. Based on, once you understand what the data requirement is, what you can then do is start looking at the technologies that you need to, one, either collect data, or two, to be able to engage that customer based on where they are in any given point in time, against a channel, using different mechanisms. It could even be in branch. What's interesting is that in the UK now, they're even doing facial recognition of people walking into supermarkets. But if you think about what that does, is I can now say, okay, as you walk in, I know who you are. I have access to your cell phone because you're a loyalty member. I have access to your loyalty card, so I know what you bought. I can now start giving you offers that are relevant to you as an individual, not just based on what offers I have in store. One of our clients is one of the big retailers. We run a program with them whereby we actually deliver vouchers via email to the customer base. In that voucher, we actually customize that barcode against the email address that we are sending from. So when that customer walks into the store and redeems that barcode, we can track that back to the original email address, their email address. And we can tie that back to either a credit card, actually credit cards we can't do anymore, but we can tie it back to a loyalty program. And the only way you get the email is if you're from the loyalty program. We can then tell you exactly what they bought against that voucher, and we can show you what the uplift was on the average spend and how they actually affected that business.